Baltimore just recorded its lowest March temperature in 141 years. Now can we say that winter's over? Please? Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill. Russia is dialing back its rhetoric regarding Ukraine, and the world markets are responding in kind. Here in the U.S., the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 all up more than 1% today. Joining me in studio, Morgan Housel and Mike Olsen. Guys, our top story, RadioShack is in freefall after sales for the holiday quarter fell 20%. The company is closing more than 1,000 locations, which is more than 1/5 of all locations. Is this what it looks like when a company dies, or is private equity circling this company and thinking we can step in and save them?
You know, I don't know what private equity investor wants to step into that. It is colder. I mean, if it's the coldest it's been in Baltimore's recorded history, it's much, much colder at RadioShack headquarters right now. This just got one word for it, and that is Amazon. They're just dealing in a very, very difficult space. They're selling consumer electronics goods. In an ideal world, you would hope to have scale, we get supply chain efficiency, the ability to source goods with relative efficiency, because that enables you to offer goods at low cost. Truth is, RadioShack doesn't have that. Wall Street Journal had a very interesting stat this morning. So RadioShack has 5,000 stores, 27,500 employees, and $3.5 billion in sales. Now to the whole idea on scale, supply chain efficiency. Wal-Mart, $470 billion in sales and 2 million employees. Amazon, $75 billion sales, 117,000 employees. I think we know how the story ends.
Is this a sneak preview of coming attractions for other companies in this space? If you're a Best Buy, if you're an Hhgregg, I'm sure there are some people at those companies who are saying, hey, this is good news for us. This means more business for us. But there have to be others saying, no, this is going to be us in 3 years if we don't get things figured out.
I think the story with companies like RadioShack is that companies don't realize that. They don't want to admit that until it's usually too late. So I don't think it's obviously not necessarily a problem for Walmart, these companies that are still doing well. But if you're a low-end retailer that doesn't really have a niche that sets you apart, like RadioShack, it's nearly impossible to compete with the Amazons of the world.
Remember when Circuit City was in Good to Great? The Jim Collins book?
Well, a long time ago. That's
long
when it
time
was
ago.
Good to Great. When you look at this stock, which a share of RadioShack now is selling for basically what a cup of coffee is selling for, what do you say to someone who says, you know what, I'm going to take a flyer on this one because if it bounces back, I'm going to be looking good?
You know, I mean, I think that if you understand and accept you want to take a flyer, that's fine, but I'm going to invoke Warren Buffett's wisdom, which he says him and Charlie like to buy businesses where they have a reasonable idea of what it will make 5 years from now. I don't think you could answer that question confidently.
I would say enjoy your coffee.
Yeah.
Spend it on the coffee instead. Let's get to some of the day's movers and shakers. Delta Airlines on the rise as passenger revenue grew 4% in February. Pretty amazing when you consider that they canceled about 8,000 flights last month.
Yeah, it's really interesting what the airline industry in general has done over the last decade. Even 5-10 years ago, the whole industry was just a mess, especially right after 9/11. They were losing more money than you could ever imagine, and they've done really well over the past few years because so many of them have merged with each other. They've taken out so much capacity. My wife and I were buying airline tickets yesterday, basically just in the process of searching through to find our flights. Every time we refresh the screen, the ticket prices would go up by about $50. These companies have pricing power now that they have not in a long, long time, and it's showing through with companies like Delta.
Second quarter profits for AutoZone up more than 9%. Same-store sales and gross margins up as well. Not everybody hates the cold weather. It looks like the auto parts companies are kind of liking the cold weather.
Yeah, you know, they are looking pretty good right now. And AutoZone, you know, this is really kind of a great story in the do-it-yourself auto retailing space on account of the fact that they have unbelievable scale. They basically lean on all the aftermarket parts suppliers, and they get them cheap. Their consumers like that. They're able to be efficient with respect to sourcing them. We know the story. The bigger question here is, on a structural basis, I just have a very, very hard time thinking that AutoZone is particularly well positioned. During the credit crisis, people just let their cars get old. On account of that, you had a huge sort of pent-up demand for new cars. You've seen a big vehicle replacement cycle over the course of the past 3 to 4 years, arguably speaking, still playing out. Logical ramification for a company like AutoZone is they're just not going to have as much demand for their wares. So I trust that they'll be able to continue to gain market share within the space, but at 18 times cash flow and a structural headwind on their demand, I just don't really like the shares right now.
Plug Power up double digits yet again. The hydrogen cell maker announced a deal last week with 6 Wal-Mart distribution centers. A year ago, this stock was trading at 17 cents a share. It's up almost 5,000% in a year. What is going on?
You've done better than that over the past year, haven't
Yeah,
you?
I think we all have.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a company that very few people knew about, 6 months or a year ago, and now it's striking these big deals. I also think there's so much excitement with Tesla right now, with battery-powered stuff, that whenever you have a company like this, people get so excited about it. Is this the next Tesla? Is this the next Tesla? I think that creates some excitement around these companies that is probably not totally rational. This company now has a market cap of $700 million. It's estimated the deal with Walmart was maybe about $50 million. It'll probably strike more deals in the future, but still, there's a lot of excitement going on here.
And speaking of Tesla Motors, Tesla did announce today plans to expand in Europe. The company will add 30 new service centers and stores across the continent. I mean, this stock up about 600% over the last year. Seems like a good, smart decision on their part, though, to really expand into Europe.
Right. I think they need to do this right now because that's sort of the logical next step in their expansion strategy. Logistically speaking, this is a pretty large undertaking because they need to build out an infrastructure, sort of a network of supercharger stations, service stations, so on and so forth, because your consumers need to have confidence that they're going to receive that service if they are going to buy Tesla shares, Tesla stock. Maybe the same for Tesla shares. On the bigger picture, sort of take a 10,000-foot view, I was doing some quick back-of-the-envelope math yesterday. Tesla shares right now, they're priced as if they're going to have a 1% share of the global auto market, sell each car at $50K a pop, and earn industry best profit margins to the tune of 3 percentage points. Now, there's a company that can do it. I trust that it is Tesla. But in an industry of this sort of cutthroat dynamics, it's a very tall order. Also remember, they only sold 30,000 cars last year. So, it's a lot.
All right, that's going to do it for today's action. And give me a stock I can put on my watch list.
Yeah, mine's Paychex. It's a simple company. They process paychecks for small, medium-sized businesses. 2 things going for it. One, the economy is bouncing back slowly but surely. But the other thing is that when companies pay their payroll, they have money on deposit with Paychex. Paychex earns interest on that. As interest rates rise, as the economy improves, that's more money for Paychex. There's 2 headwinds going. There's 2 tailwinds, I should say, moving in its direction.
All right, Mike, what about you?
Taking a look at a company called Flowers Direct. Now, they operate under the namesake FTD.com. They are one of the largest online sellers of flowers. And I'd previously looked at this company where it was part of United Online, but I passed on it on account of the fact that it was part of that business. Now, they were recently spun out. Barron's article this weekend drew my attention to it. I would have dismissed this on account of it being just an online flower seller, but what it actually is a flower network, or a network of florists. What they do is a given consumer will place an order for flowers, and one of their 40,000 florists will fulfill that order. Now, this is a network which is very unique in and of the fact that you need to have a nationwide presence. It's not like you can go ahead and put flowers in a UPS truck. So it's kind of an interesting business. 10 times cash flow. It looks like the market hasn't yet caught on to the spinoff, so it's something I'm going to be giving some more work to.
All right, from Mike Olsen and Morgan Housel, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.